I cared for her deeply, but she wanted a divorce and half of my possessions. They say you never forget your first love, but that wasn't true for me. My experience was different. I always knew the legal system wasn't on the side of men in divorce cases, but this time, it seems like something has changed. I was married to my wife, Helen, for 7 years. Throughout our marriage, I learned many things, especially leading up to the end about a year ago. I'm Alex, the first son of my father and the head of my family now. I have always been my parents' only child, but everything changed when they decided to try for another baby. My mother really wanted a daughter and kept pushing my father for another child since I was the only one they had for years. My mother finally got what she wished for. It didn't take long for her to find out she was pregnant. Our family received great news. This was something my mother had been praying for a long time. The time during her pregnancy went by quickly, and before we realized it, nearly 6 months had passed. It seems like the only one who really saw the time passing from when we learned about Mom's pregnancy to 6 months in was my dad. He took on the responsibility of caring for her the whole time. It seemed like this was my mother's first birth. My dad went all out, pampering her and taking care of her every need, ensuring she didn't have to lift a finger during this time. My parents decided in advance that they wouldn't find out the baby's sex until the day of the birth. Eventually, the day arrived, as 3 months slipped by quickly. I remember the day my sister was born. It was a Tuesday, and my dad rushed my mom to the hospital. When he noticed her water had broken, my dad brought me with him since there was no one to stay with me at home. If he had left me behind, he might not have returned that day. This was my first time in a hospital. I felt uneasy in the whole place, but I had to deal with it because my little sibling was being born, and I couldn't miss it for anything. My younger sister was born at 11:31 on November 21st. When my sister was born, I felt a rush of emotions. She seemed so small and vulnerable that I knew I had to do everything I could to protect her. This could be described as that natural big brother instinct or a sense of duty. This feeling definitely didn't fade at all, even after she grew up a bit. When she was about 3 years old, my parents had important meetings out of state. They couldn't leave us alone in the house for that long, so they hired a babysitter to take care of us while they were gone, along with a house sitter to look after the house. I didn't know about this until the day before they were set to leave. When I asked them about their departure and return plans, they simply said not to worry, assuring me that they had arranged for our care while they were away. When they mentioned hiring a babysitter and a caretaker for the house, I simply suggested that I could take care of my sister myself. I believed I could take care of myself, so I reassured my parents that I was ready to handle things, especially when it came to looking after my sister. I was already an adult, so it wasn't too difficult. I tried to convince my parents in every way I could to show them how responsible I could be moving forward. After a lot of convincing, they finally let me babysit my sister while they were away, but only if our grandmother, Helen, would come by to check on us from time to time. I quickly said yes, as I was willing to accept any of their conditions. My parents left the house, and I was responsible for my little sister. My grandmother, Helen, came by occasionally to keep us company and check on us for our parents. Before we knew it, the time they planned to be away passed quickly, and soon after, the agreed date for their return arrived, and they came back home. I want to share that I have a little sister, and I would do almost anything to protect and care for her, even without our parents around. This brings us to the main part of my story, which is about me and my ex-wife, Helen. Yes, I know what you might be thinking. My ex-wife has the same name as my grandmother. That was one of the things about Helen that intrigued me when I first met her. Helen and I go way back to when we first met in high school. Helen led the school's debate team, while I was just a member. I wasn't really interested in any extracurricular activities the school offered, but it was mandatory for every student to participate to earn the credits needed to graduate. I joined the debate team because they assured us we wouldn't be pressured into anything we didn't want to do. They just needed enough students to keep the club running at school. I joined the debate club with some friends. We attended meetings now and then, but mostly stayed in the back of the classroom, not planning to participate actively. One day, something interesting happened that caught my attention. Since we registered for the school's debate team, we hadn't seen the club's president. That changed when the team was getting ready for an inter-school competition. The leader needed to be there to organize everything and prepare us for the event. This became a significant problem because the debate team was already short on members. They needed to meet the required number to stay active in the school's eyes, and being one member short meant they risked dropping out of the registration process. I heard them talking during a meeting. I didn't plan to get involved since I wasn't interested in the club, but when I saw Helen, the leader and president, I was amazed. I stood there, staring at her. She was the definition of beauty. I never thought I would see someone as beautiful as her during my time at that school. I don't know what came over me, but in that moment, I felt completely motivated to work. I just said that I could take the empty slot that was available. As soon as I said that, everyone on the team turned to look at me. They were surprised by what I said, but Helen was even more impressed by her team. She had a fixed idea of who I was, thinking my role was just to fill in among the club members. She pulled me aside and asked me a bunch of questions related to education. Then, she started to probe further to see if I had the experience and qualifications for this role. While I answered her questions, I couldn't help but look into her eyes. They were stunning, a light blue, almost royal blue. She had the perfect height, spoke elegantly, and was just the right level of smart. Talking to her was like a dream I wished would never stop. Before I realized it, she signaled to me, indicating she was finished with the questions. She believed I was ready to join the team, but wanted to ask a few more to help me understand how they operated. I decided to go along with whatever she had planned. She set up after-school tutorials at her house for the whole team. After a month of practice, the big day arrived. To everyone's surprise, we ended up as first runner-up in the competition, having won our regionals and made it to the state championship and then the finals. Seeing Helen so happy felt amazing. It made me proud of what I had done. During the championship, Helen and I became really close. We almost got intimate before the finals, but when things heated up, she stopped me. She said she wanted to focus on the finals and thought I would be a distraction. I fell down, and she saw it. She tried to cheer me up by saying that after the tournament, she would answer any question I wanted to ask her. I realized she was hinting at when I would ask her to be my girlfriend, and that she would say yes. That was the agreement we reached together. This won't change based on how our tournament turns out. Even though we came in second in the whole country, it hurts to know we had a shot at gold, but ended up with silver. After the tournament, Helen and I became official. We had some rough times, but we were a perfect match for each other. Eventually, people started to doubt our relationship, claiming we wouldn't last. However, we proved them wrong at our wedding a few years after graduating from college. This is where things begin to get interesting. After we got married, we spent the next 3 years fully embracing married life. As young adults, we hadn't planned on having kids right away. We wanted to enjoy life and pursue our dreams. Both of us had steady incomes, and even if we considered retiring, our savings, both individual and joint, were more than sufficient. Plus, our families supported us as well. About 4 years into our marriage, we decided to take a break from everything and everyone, so we went on vacations. Vacations included beaches from different parts of the world and popular tourist spots. After 5 years of marriage, we decided it was time to return home, settle down, and start a family, since Helen said she was ready for one. Just before our 6th wedding anniversary, and after being together for about 9 years, we discovered that she was pregnant with a baby girl. This was great news for us and our families. It marked a turning point in our relationship, as she changed completely at this point. My sister decided to visit me after having some problems at school. I welcomed her into my house without hesitation because she needed a place to stay. I couldn't just be here while she was out there needing help. When I invited my sister in, Helen was upset. She didn't like that I brought my sister into the house without asking her first. I found it strange, considering she was my only younger sister. She opposed my decision, saying she didn't want her in the house. I told her I couldn't let my sister stay anywhere else when we had free rooms available. She wanted to send her away, but I stopped her, and that's how our first and final disagreement started. When I told her she had no right to send my sister away, and that I was sorry I didn't mention earlier that she was coming due to an emergency, she just went silent and didn't respond. Things got so intense between us that I had to walk away for the night. The next morning surprised me. I was prepared to apologize and make things right, but I discovered she had left the house in frustration and booked a flight out of the country. She told me she didn't want anything to do with me anymore because I had made my choice by siding with my sister and dismissing her perspective. She took all the money from our joint accounts and left me with almost nothing. I was unsure of my feelings at that moment. I was shocked she could do something like this. What shocked me more was that she took everything we had and left, taking my unborn baby girl, who was 8 months along. I felt shattered for 3 weeks. I didn't eat anything for days, only starting again when my sister made me. After some time, she returned with good news. She had found a lawyer to assist with my case. At first, I hesitated, but then I found a letter from Helen. She was filing for divorce and asking for more than half of what I had left. She was set on taking everything I had. This was the moment I realized there was no turning back. I talked to the lawyer my sister recommended, and we filed our case too. After sharing all the details of our case and how she took almost everything we owned, my lawyer reassured me not to worry. He mentioned he had handled similar cases before, and this one was quite minor. I just sat back and observed him do his thing. After many court sessions, the court ruled in her favor for the divorce, and we were officially divorced. Since she had more assets than I did, she was responsible for giving me half. The court decided that she had to pay me back all the money she took from our joint accounts. She was sentenced to 1.5 years in jail, which would start after she gave birth to my daughter. The court also ruled that she had to give the baby to me right after birth, as they determined she wasn't fit to take care of her. As the court delivered its final verdict, I still had feelings for her. But the look in her eyes showed that I had gotten my revenge for what she did to me, and that made me feel satisfied. I went out with him. I told my ex not to worry after we broke up. Am I actually in the wrong for this? 3 months ago, I, 21F, went to a club for student night where drinks were just £2.50. I went out with a large group of girls. I met M, 23M, while I was out. I'm not sure how we began talking, but he was chatting with me and my friend. During our conversation, he noticed his friend had wandered off, so we invited him to stay and hang out with us. We spent the rest of our time there with him. He talked to my friend as well, but we really clicked. We were both in relationships and made it clear this wasn't just a hookup, even sharing pictures of our partners. As the night continued and we drank more, I have to admit our interactions started to feel a bit flirty. Here are a few examples. 1. When we walk through crowded places, we hold hands to stay together. I danced with him a lot again, holding hands, no grinding or anything. 3. I hugged him a lot, and at one point he picked me up during a hug. I wrapped my legs around him, which made my skirt roll up. When he set me down, he rolled it back down for me. I acted like I was his girlfriend to stop a girl who kept bothering him. I told her to stop flirting with my boyfriend, kissed him on the cheek, and held onto his arm. 5. At the end of the night when I had to leave, I hugged him goodbye, and we accidentally kissed. We both went in to kiss each other on the cheek at the same time, and our lips ended up touching. It was an accident. We both said sorry, and it felt awkward. The week after, we started texting a lot. I suggested we have both our friend groups meet up so we could hang out again. We had good chemistry, and we figured our friends would get along too. It went well, and now our friend groups are combined. I have a lot of new friends. 2 of his friends are now dating 2 of my friends, and one couple is even in a serious relationship. Unfortunately, my boyfriend was not pleased with them. He wasn't a fan of our texting. He disliked the story of how we met. I understood why, as it might seem questionable from the outside, even though our intentions were pure. I introduced them, and they got along well, laughing together. Later that night, my boyfriend started criticizing him for no reason, which led to an argument because he was being insincere. 2 weeks ago, M ended things with his girlfriend. I'm not clear on all the details, but it seems they drifted apart because they were in different places in life. She wanted kids, but he wasn't ready for that. When my boyfriend found out, he said he didn't want me to text or be friends with him anymore, since he was single now. I told him I'm not going to cut him off during a tough time. The thought that I can't be friends with someone just because they're single is absurd. I told my boyfriend I wanted to stay friends with someone he didn't like. He said if I did, he would break up with me. So I ended things right then because I was done with his jealousy and control. On Thursday, I received a text from a friend who was dating one of M's friends. She mentioned that she and my other friend, who is dating one of his friends, were going to London on Friday for a trip and asked if M and I wanted to join. I messaged him, and he mentioned that his friend had asked the same thing. We both decided to go. When we arrived, everything was different from what I expected, and it really felt like a triple date. We played mini golf, then went out for food and drinks. By the end of the night, we chose to stay in London since we couldn't do everything we had planned. We all booked hotel rooms, and M and I had one as well, which had 2 beds in it. We ended up in the same bed and kissed a little. The following day, we visited Camden Food Market and then headed to Babylon Park, a large arcade. We chose to stay another night, and this time, M and I had to get a room with 1 bed since there were no double rooms available. We went to a club and then returned to the room. I gave him oral, but nothing more happened. The next morning, I found around 50 messages from my ex. He was calling me a liar and a cheat, claiming he knew I was out on a triple date. I mentioned that I was single and free to make my own choices. He kept saying I was cheating with M, claiming it's strange for me to move on in 2 weeks after a 3-year relationship with someone we had argued about, who I insisted wasn't an issue. I explained that M wasn't the issue, he was the issue. If he hadn't been so jealous, none of this would have occurred. I blocked him because he kept saying I was gaslighting him and being dramatic. I told M and the 2 couples we were with, and they said he was just being pathetic and that everything was fine. However, some other friends think I'm wrong for moving on so quickly and with M. Am I? Update 1. Yesterday, M and I went out for a late meal around 8 p.m. and had a conversation. We both like each other and want to try being exclusive to see how things develop. He spent the night at my place, and we ended up sleeping together. It was great. I feel really happy and excited about what's coming next. We decided to book a last-minute trip to Cyprus, just the 2 of us. We leave on Monday. He's half Greek Cypriot and half Jamaican, and he has a villa there, so we only needed to sort out the flights. I drafted a text with help from someone in DMs and sent it to my 2 friends in a group chat. They thought I should have waited. It says, "Hello everyone. I understand that my actions have disappointed you, and it may seem like I moved on too fast. I appreciate that you care about me and want me to make good choices for myself. I want to explain what happened and share my thought process." In that moment of the ultimatum, I saw 2 paths in front of me. There was a time when I spent my 20s in Jay's bedroom, watching him smoke weed and play Xbox. I kept asking him to go on a date, but the only time he paid attention to me was when he wanted sex. I saw one where I stayed friends with M, and we all hung out as a big group, going to events, playing golf, and going on holidays together. At that moment, I realized the relationship was over. I didn't just pick M over Jay, I chose a life where we can all hang out and enjoy ourselves instead of just sitting around doing nothing with Jay. It wasn't just about choosing M or Jay, it was about all of you and the life we've created together over the past few months compared to Jay. I moved on quickly because I had been unhappy for a long time. I could only ask him to change for so long before I decided to give up. It may look like I stopped caring for him suddenly, but honestly, this has been developing since the beginning of the year. I have asked him to change many times, but he never did. He just wanted to smoke weed, nothing more. By the time he said he would end it, I had already grieved the relationship many times. He had used up all my tears. He had already exhausted me emotionally. I had run out of emotions to offer him. Ending things with him wasn't sad, it felt freeing. I didn't see a reason to wait. I care about you both a lot, and I hope you can find happiness for me. If not, that's up to you. My friends responded, acknowledging my unhappiness. They believe I made the right choice and expressed their happiness for me. They apologized for seeming judgmental, saying it wasn't their intention and that they were just concerned I might be making a hasty choice. We're all getting together tonight, just the girls. We're going out for a meal and some drinks to put everything behind us. I'm going to M's for the first time to meet his parents, and I'm really excited. My ex is staying blocked, and I don't think I'll ever see or hear from him again since he never leaves his room. That's the end of that, and I'm closing that chapter of my life for good. Thanks to everyone who offered helpful advice. Thanks to Reddit user for DMing me and helping me draft that message. I also appreciate the haters who pushed me to clarify my beliefs and defend my actions. I couldn't have found the words for that text without you. I probably won't use this account anymore since I got what I needed from it. Farewell, Reddit.